welcome to lesson number 14. Today we will talk about classes in Java. The term class is fundamental in object-oriented programming. The first thing that we need to understand is what objects really are. Take a look around you and try to name some objects. For example, I can see a keyboard, a microphone, a mouse, a door, a wall. All of these are examples of objects. Objects in real life have state. For example, 4 feet or dimensions in centimeter, etc. And the behavior. For example, a monitor is booting, a monkey is eating, a man is fighting, etc. That's the behavior. Our objects in Java have also a state that we put in fields like variables, and the behavior. The behavior of our objects are the methods. So that is an object in object-oriented programming. But what is a class? Well, think class as a blueprint of creating projects, or you can also think it like a food recipe. For example, you have a food recipe of cupcakes. If you follow the recipe, then you can create as many cupcakes as you want, which will also be similar to each other because you use the same materials, the same heat, etc. to create them. Until now, we have been creating a class using the statement public class main. Main is the name of our class, and as we said some lessons before, it always starts with a capital letter. Classes start always with a capital letter. So let's now create our first class. First we will create our main method inside our main class with that we will always do, and so that we can run our code. So go to the Package Explorer, new Java project, let's name it lesson 14, next, and then inside the source file you can create a class. We will name it main like we always do, and also put the main method inside it. So that is the main method. Now how can we create a class? You go here on your package, right click, new class, and you create the class. Let's name our class Cupcake. You don't press the public static void main here. You just press finish. And this is our class. We will give now our class some characteristics. Let's keep it simple in our first lesson about classes. Bear in mind that we will put these characteristics inside an imaginary field, which we will call the data field. So inside our class, let's make it a little more better for your eyes. We will create a comment here, and we will say this is the data field here. And then we can create another comment, end of data field. Data field. This is more that you can keep in your mind how a class works, and on our next lesson and the coming lessons we will see the whole structure of a class. So this will help you to keep in mind what is a data field and what do we put inside the data field. So let's give our class characteristics. What does a cupcake have? Private, let's say butter in gram, because we use butter to create it. Let's say oil in gram. I'm also not so good in baking, so let's say sugar also in gram, and that's why we use the integer here. We give in our characteristics a scope. The scope means from where can we access these characteristics, and we will talk more about it in our next lesson. Then we use our data type, integer, and then the name of our characteristic. Here, for example, I have written butter in gram because we use butter to create it. We use oil to create it, oil in gram, the grams of oil, or is it milliliter? In milliliter, I think. Then sugar in gram, then let's say also a name, private string name. We will give every cupcake, every single cupcake, another name. And this is the end of data field. So this is our first class. And from we created our first class, and remember what we said, the class is the blueprint. The recipe to create our objects is the class. Now, how do we create an object? We build objects using the main method in our main class. That's why I came back here in our main method. And also don't forget, before you go to another class, don't forget to save it. Save your current state. Now go back to your main. This is our main here. So the way to create a cupcake, because we have now the recipe, is the following. You write the name of your class, for example, cupcake. Then you give a name to your cupcake, for example, my cupcake, or my cupcake 1. And then you say new cupcake and the semicolon. And this is how you create your first object. Now you created a cupcake. You created the cupcake, a new cupcake, with this name. And practically you created a new cupcake and you have put this cupcake inside this variable. This variable has a data type of cupcake. So let's create another object. How do we do it? We say cupcake, my second cupcake, and then new cupcake, like before. And now we have two different objects, and every object points to a different variable, so we can use both of them. At this point, we created two objects called my cupcake 1 and my second cupcake, based on the recipe cupcake. This is an individual object here, for example, and this is also an individual object. What really happens here in the new cupcake part, this is something that we will see in our coming lessons. Spoiler alert, the constructor of the class is called in order for a new object to be created. We will talk about the constructor. And in our next lesson, we will talk about encapsulation and scope, and we will use some methods to call the characteristics of each class. So let's don't keep this lesson any longer, because I don't want you to get tired, and stay focused. Thank you all for watching.